Hey there everyone, and welcome to part 1 of my devlog about my team and I's progress on our Funko Fusion inspired game. Let me break down our idea. We wanted our game demo to be themed around the graveyard scene from the season 4 episode Dear Billy from Stranger Things, also known as the running up that hill or Kate Bush scene. Moving straight on into mechanics, since our brief required us to have collectibles, we settled as a team on having them be parts of the cassette player, 4 pieces to be exact: the batteries, the headphones, the cassette itself, and the Sony Walkman. My first job was making it clear what the player's goal was. To do this, I used a very simple and non-intrusive inventory in the bottom left that would update when the correct item was collected. This proved challenging, but after taking a bunch of different approaches and none of them working, a fellow student suggested using structures for an inventory system, and it worked perfectly. Thanks, Alice. Using a structure allowed me to have variables that could store images corresponding to each item, and if they had been picked up or not. Eventually there will be actual art. For the time being, however, there is only one for the headphones, and the rest use a placeholder of a green and red tint, indicating their collection attribute. The next mechanic I had to get nailed down was actually picking up the item. This proved easier than I first thought, since I could add an enhanced input action for pressing E. Then I set it up so that when E is pressed, while inside the box collision of an item, it would add one to the structure and update the inventory, but would also destroy the actor. In this clip you can also see that the items are bobbing and rotating before disappearing. This makes them look more important and separate from the environment. This was done using looping timeline nodes that affect the local rotation and location. Another key part of this level was a time limit to add a sense of pressure. We did this by adding Max rising into the sky for 60 seconds. This was done by adding another timeline node that didn't loop and lasted 60 seconds overall. The timer was added in after for development purposes and will likely be removed further down the development cycle. Next, we decided to focus on getting art into the engine, like trees, graves, and the character model for Lucas. We did have a few issues when importing, where because of the way certain models were made, for example using multiple parts for a model, they would import as multiple objects as seen here. This was easily fixed though by grouping them all into one mesh. Moving on to importing and animating Lucas. When deciding how to animate Lucas, we settled on Mixamo due to time constraints, and because none of us felt we could fit in learning rigging and animating while still working on the main part of the project. For those who don't know what Mixamo is, it's an automatic rigging platform that has thousands of animations free to use online. It can be a bit messy, and I did have to manually change some of the weight painting issues before importing the skeleton and mesh into Unreal 5. But it was quicker and easier than learning rigging and animating. Once the mesh were imported, as well as the skeleton, I could set the character model to Lucas and then the skeleton to Lucas too. This meant that I could then import an idle animation and a running animation. I added both of these to a blend space inside of Lucas's animation class. I then, inside that blend space, set up the idle animation to play when 0 velocity was happening, and then the running animation for when the velocity increased. This allowed a smoother transition of the two animations to take place when moving. Another piece of finalized art we have implemented into the game is Steve's car, and the animation of its boot opening. One problem that arose when I was adding this, however, was not realizing that the inherit root bone option for the animation wasn't ticked, causing the car to shrink down to the size of a Tic Tac when the animation was played. This made me think it was destroying the actor before realizing it just shrank. However, it was fixed after a lot of trial and error. The landscape has also nearly been finalized. However, the textures and the grass assets are directly from the UE5 marketplace, which we might change depending on the time constraints of the project. My next point of focus will likely be finishing up the main menu, which as you can see is only in a placeholder state. Overall, the game is in a playable and presentable state at this point, and we should hopefully have time to add the second level where you run from Vecna to the song Running Up That Hill. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.